Basically, we'll give a background on the study, briefly talk about the data and methods, which you already guessed, it will be PIAAC. Proceed to results and conclusions afterwards. So as you all know, starting in early 2020, with the COVID pandemic, a lot of educational institutions had to close their in-person instructions. And in the spring, summer of 2020, OECD reported that more than 188 countries, around 91% of enrolled students worldwide, implemented school closures. What that means is that school-age children, ages 6 to 17, had to participate in remote education. And furthermore, that the parents had to help not only in navigation of the online digital environment, but also understanding and completing their schoolwork. Previous research has shown a strong relationship between parents' outcomes and outcomes of children. For example, Ford and Umbrich in 2016 found that numeracy scores of first-generation college graduates, so we're already talking about college graduates, but so the first-generation college graduates were lower than the scores of the college graduates who had a college-educated parents. So those that did not have college-educated parents, and their scores in numeracy were lower. And with greater parental involvement in their children's education during remote learning, children with low-skilled parents, we suspect would be at higher risk for learning loss if parents do not have the necessary skills to support them. So that was the motivation for our study, and our research questions ended up being rather broad. What are the literacy, numeracy, and digital problem-solving skills of parents across countries, several countries of interest, and what are the demographic, educational, and employment characteristics, again, of the parents of school-age children across these countries of interest. PIAAC was a great data set for this study. We picked Finland, France, the UK, and the United States data sets. The three domains of literacy, numeracy, and digital problem solving were examined. And for digital problem solving, France, since they did not participate in that assessment, you'll see that we discuss only findings for Finland, UK, and US. And we use data to do the analysis. Again, to define our population of interest, we are talking here about parents of school-age children. So in PIAAC, these are adults ages 16 to 65 who have at least one child in the 6 to 17-year-old age range. And approximately 25 to 30% of adult population in the country. So quite a large portion of adult population in the countries that we are studying here were in fact parents of school-age children. So we first looked at the distribution of literacy and numeracy skills of parents separately. So here we see that in Finland, parents in Finland have higher literacy levels, which is level 3 or above, and 2/3 of them have higher numeracy levels. Yeah. In contrast, around 20% of parents in France and the United States and 15% of parents in the UK are low skilled in literacy. And in numeracy, 1/4 of parents in France and in the UK and a whopping 30% of parents in the US are low skilled so in numeracy. And maybe this is a good time to talk about what low skilled or being at level 1 or below for each of the domain means. So adults at this level in literacy can read relatively short digital, print, or mixed text to locate a single piece of information. So this is the adults, this is what adults at level 1 can do. And those at below level 1, this category includes below level 1 as well. They won't even be able to, are likely not to be able to complete this kind of simple task successfully. In numeracy, adults at level 1 are and below can perform one-step tasks, so counting or sorting, and they should have an understanding of simple percentages like half or 50%. Again, adults who are below level 1 would likely not to succeed in these tasks. So now that we know a little bit about what the low skilled mean, we can dive into a bit more detail on the skills distribution. So here we combined literacy and numeracy. And low skill is defined as those at level 1 or below on both or either of the scales. And we see here that over 15% of parents in the US and France and 13% in the UK have low skills in both literacy and numeracy. And only 2 to 4% of adults, that's this blue section here across all of our countries, are low skilled in literacy only. And this means that the majority of those who are low skilled in literacy are also low skilled in numeracy. Now we go to the digital problem solving domain. And here I have to explain and do a little bit more explanation. So in order for someone to take this assessment domain, they had to meet all of the 3 following criteria. So they had to be willing to take the test on the computer. Since it's a digital problem solving assessment, it can be administered on paper. They had to report on the background questionnaire that they took before the assessment, that they've used computer in their life before. And they had to pass a basic computer test involving highlighting or using the mouse. So they had to successfully complete 5 of the 8 of these basic tasks. So those that did not meet either of these criteria did not take the digital problem solving assessment, and we are marking them here as not digitally literate. And you'll see an A for France because they did not administer this domain. So the rest of the bars here are those that have taken and scored at some level of digital problem solving, or let's say digital literacy, right? So these are not digitally literate, and the rest is at level 1 and below of digital literacy, and level 2 and above. So compared to the other two countries, parents in Finland, parents in Finland seem to be more digitally adept. You have 44% of them have scored at level 2 and above. Interestingly, about the same percentage of parents in Finland and the UK did not take the digital problem solving assessment. So they didn't, we consider them not digitally literate because they were not comfortable enough or able or willing to take the test on the computer. And 17% of parents in the US did not take the digital problem solving assessment. Now, and this is getting progressively complex, and I promise this is the last layered graph that you'll see from me today. What we did here is to combine all three domains. And the reason for doing so is that, remember, in this study, we are concerned with parents trying to help their children navigating the digital environment, and also helping the kids with their assignments afterwards. So when we look at across the three domains, we see that the low skilled in all of the domains, we see that the low skilled in all of the domains are about 3-4% of parents in Finland and the UK, but in the US, it's 9% of parents. So quite a bit of a higher number than the 3-4% in Finland and UK. Then about 2-3%, this is the next portion of the chart here, in all three countries are low skilled in digital literacy and low skilled in either literacy or numeracy. And we also have about 5 to 7% of parents that are not low skilled in literacy or numeracy, but do have trouble navigating the digital environment. In the UK and US, about 1/5 of adults are at digital literacy level 1 and below, and also are low skilled in either or both of the subjects of literacy and numeracy. So that's all from me now, and I will go now to Emily.
Thank you. Sorry in advance that we're going to go over by a few minutes. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the demographics and family structure findings. So for gender and age, a higher percentage of parents were females compared to males in France, UK, and US. In Finland, they were about the same. And majority of parents across these countries were middle-aged adults. So 42 to 48% were ages 35 to 44, and 30% to 36% were ages 45 to 54. So looking at the number of children, we'll see that in France and the UK, more of the parents fell in the 2 children category, whereas in the US, more parents had 4+ children. So that may be an additional burden for those parents who have more children. They have to have more people to assist with their education. In terms of living with a partner, Finland and France had higher percentage of parents living with partner compared to US and UK. So those parents who have a partner may have additional supports helping their children. And now focusing on the education. So looking at the lower levels of education, so kind of the less than high schools, UK had the most parents fall into the lower education category, followed by France, and then US and Finland. Whereas, and that may be a barrier to them if they have not completed high school themselves, and maybe even some of their children may be in the high school level, so that may be hard for them to help their children. And then for the higher levels of education, so the bachelor's and above, more people in US and Finland had those higher levels of education, and fewer in France and UK did. So for participation in education, more people in Finland, more parents in Finland participated, so nearly 70%, whereas France had a lower percentage, around less than 40%. And for formal education, France also had the lowest percentage at 4%, and the other countries were around 15 or 16% participating in formal education. So that might be useful for them because they're upskilling, but there also is another obligation that may make it more difficult for parents to assist their children. So now to look at some employment variables. Finland had the most employed parents. Sorry, I know we're almost out of time. Sorry, I couldn't really see your sign because of the background, but also Finland had the most full-time employed parents, working 35 hours or more, so nearly 3/4 of parents in Finland, compared to places like UK had the lowest, with around 52% of parents working full-time. So looking at the income quintiles, so US and Finland had the fewest parents in the lowest income quintiles, and compared to France and UK. And for example, maybe because they have higher education levels, or in the case of Finland, we saw more parents were working full time. That's why more parents in Finland may be, for example, in the higher top income quintiles. And more parents in Finland may have both parents employed, and so it may be difficult for them to find the time to assist with their children's education if both parents are working. And the US had the lowest percentage, 50% with both parents working. Now, so to conclude, so we found variations in skills of parents across countries. So for example, Finland had lowest percentage of parents low skilled in both literacy and numeracy. US had highest percentage of not digitally literate parents. And this may be difficult both in terms of not only the cognitive skills for literacy and numeracy, but also any of the technical skills that may be involved with that may be difficult for them to help their children with education that's done remotely online. And then we saw some variations in these demographic characteristics. So more parents in US had 4 children or more. Finland and France had greater percentage of parents living with partner. US and Finland had more parents with higher education. Finland had the most full-time employed parents. So these may be either things that help or are barriers to them helping with their children's education. So just one final slide. With this increase in remote learning during the pandemic, understanding these skills and other barriers provide an understanding of the impact on student outcomes. And it helps to provide evidence for creating targeted policies to mitigate learning loss. So countries with higher skilled parents with high levels of employment may need more flexible work time arrangements, while those with lower skilled parents with high levels of employment may need time on the job upskilling that would benefit both their work skills and also their skills at home, helping their children with their education. All right, thank you.